basics, really, what is SEO? Oh, and we're recording this webinar, so there you go. So what is SEO? Really, in its most basic sense, SEO is a value exchange between three different groups. So the user, or the person making the searches, Google, which provides answers to those searches, and you. So as a practice, you're the one kind of providing a website and providing answers to those searches. Yeah, so if we go to the next slide here, really a user goes to Google and they want to know something, they want to do something, they maybe want to go somewhere, or they want to buy something. So no matter what they search, Google uses its algorithm, which uses over 200 ranking factors to pick the best result for whatever that person is searching. And then it's up to you as the person with the website to improve your website and optimize your website so that it shows up for those searches, whether someone wants to know your location, they want to buy glasses, whatever they want to do. So why is SEO important, and why is showing up on the first page especially important? So when we talk about SEO and why it's so important to show up on the first page, it's because around 90% of people will only ever visit the first page. If you think back to the last time you made a Google search, probably the last time you went to the second page was never. So showing up on the first page and at the top of the first page is especially important. And showing up on the first page is really what's going to help you grow your organic traffic and increase your leads and your conversion. So I won't go through all of these updates, but this is just to give you an idea of how often the Google algorithm changes and how important it is to be continually looking at your website, looking at your SEO in order to adapt to these changes. So you can see that the algorithm is changing all the time. These are even just the named updates. So Google is making tiny adjustments all the time that won't even show up here. And I did want to highlight the medic update, and that's from 2018. And that was an update that really focused on medical content, so very relevant to eye care. And that was an update that really focused on making sure that medical content is reliable. So it's published by people who have expertise, authority, and trust within the medical community. So if we go to the next slide here, we can kind of see the impact that an algorithm update can have on a website. So this is celiac.com, so website about celiac, and you can see how the medic update really caused a decrease in their rankings. You can see how that graph just drops off right there. And that's because they had a lot of content that wasn't written by doctors, wasn't written by people who had authority in the field. So that's what caused this website to lose those rankings.
Yeah, and like Bryn said, I mean, those are only the main algorithm updates that Google even tells us about. You know, Google is updating its algorithm all of the time. And I think when it comes to SEO and just when it comes to Google as a whole, I know everybody uses Google. Everybody is probably doing a search at least once a day, if not multiple times a day. But the way that I like to sort of describe it, or the analogy that I like to give to paint some color around SEO as a topic, is if you think of your website like a book, you have to sort of think of Google as, or the internet as, you know, a library. The internet obviously then being the biggest library in the world. And Google is effectively the librarian in that library. Now, if you have the biggest library in the world and you have millions upon millions of books for pretty much every search that's being done that could be relevant to that search, Google has a really tough job to try to find which book can it pass back to that person who's walking to the library and asking that question that will make that user happy and give that answer that user's question or solve that user's problem. And so that's when SEO comes in, is Google is looking at some very key specific factors within each book or within each website to try to understand which books or websites it can trust in order to understand which ones it will pass back to that user. So the end game of Google is to try to offer the best user experience by providing that information. But obviously, when there's a lot of content on the web, a lot of content on the internet now, it's not an easy job. And so there are a lot of factors that go into it. So just sort of break down what a search result page looks like, because we are going to be talking about the search results page a lot today. Short is SERP, which is just a fun word to say. This is something that you guys are probably very familiar with. You've probably all seen this before. But just again, to break it down, just to make sure that you understand what these sections are. And so the top section of any search that's being done, in this case, is eye care marketing, is just an example that we gave. The top 3-4 listings, sometimes you only see one listing, but the top section there, generally speaking, is the paid ads section. And so you will see a little ad right beside the website that's being listed there. And that just notifies that it is the paid ad section. That means that these people are paying for every click. And this is a very quick, easy way to show up on the first page of Google. If you want to show up for the term eye care marketing in this case, or eye care exams, then we can very quickly and easily bid on that keyword to make sure you're showing up at the top. Below this is where you see organic results. And organic basically just means that you're not paying for it, but Google trusts your website enough, again, going back to that library analogy, that it is pulling your book or pulling your website out of that vast database, or that vastness of that is the internet, and putting you on the first page there. So in order to do this, it's just Google is essentially trusting your website. And then on the right here, we see local results, and that is, again, being pulled from the map. And this goes back to Google My Business listings, which we will also get into. And this is just a quick visual to break down. Generally speaking, when we think about a Google search results page, we think about effectively the search results page, those organic listings, those websites that are being listed like we just saw. But in reality, people use Google in all sorts of ways, and there are so many different ways that your website could be found. And a lot of times these ways aren't really thought of. And so as an example, somebody might click on your website from that search results page, but there are other ways in terms of, maybe someone sees a review, or maybe someone sees you on the map, or somebody sees an image that is on your site because it's being pulled into that image tab on that search results page. Or even videos, there's a video tab there too, where if you have videos on your site, sometimes you could have your video either on the video section or have a featured video. Even if people are starting to ask questions, whether it's on voice or just a simple text question, sometimes Google will try to pull knowledge snippets and answer that question right there as well. And so again, Twitter, Google Ads, or basically there's so many different ways that you can show up. And so just making sure that we are tackling all those different avenues rather than just making sure that we're trying to show up in the search results section.
Yeah, so on that note, here are kind of all of the different ways we do SEO. So there isn't kind of one way to do it. These are all the different areas of your website that we look at. And we also look at areas off your website. So some of the ones we're going to highlight today is your website content itself, blogs, and Google My Business. So if you take anything away from this presentation, it's that SEO doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be manipulative. Really, all you have to remember is your patients. So if you think about your patients and what they need and what they understand, then you're probably going to be well on your way in terms of SEO. So I have this example here, which is an example of keyword stuffing. So back in the day of SEO, Google ranked websites based on the quantity of keyword, not on the quality of your website. So you ended up with websites that were garbage for humans, basically. So you ended up with websites that just mentioned the same keywords over and over and over again. So we don't want to do that. What we want to do is write our website and include anything on our website to be written for people. And if you do that, then the search results should follow. Another thing I want to touch on is website page structure. So we see this a lot. A lot of eye care practices will have one service page that has all of the different services they offer. And we don't want to do that because that makes it harder for Google to understand what the page is about. And if it's hard for Google to understand what the page is about, then it's hard for Google to rank that page. So we say each service or kind of topic on your website should have its own page. So this example here, these are all kind of different types of eye exams, but they each have their own page because that will make it way easier for your website to rank for diabetic eye exam, for example, if someone is searching that.
Yeah, and this is, generally speaking, a pretty easy change that makes a big difference.
Yeah, for sure. The next is blog content. So blog content is really an opportunity to increase the number of keywords or number of searches that your website ranks for. So in addition to ranking for things like eye exam near me, blogs allow your website to rank for more than just your services. So if someone's kind of Googling, you know, why are my eyes so dry? Like, why is my eye red? A blog on those topics is an opportunity for your website to rank for those searches. And then whoever's searching that will go to your website. Maybe they find the blog really helpful. They book an appointment. So it's a really good way to kind of reach more patients who maybe don't necessarily know that they need to see an optometrist. So really, when you think about search, really just think about what your patients need to know. So as people who are probably patient facing, you probably have a really good idea of kind of those frequently asked questions patients are wanting to know. So we use a couple different tools to find this out, but you can really just think about those frequently asked questions you get from patients. You can also use autofill on Google. So when Google kind of tries to guess what you're searching on autofill, that's actually based on the most common searches. And you can also use a couple other free tools to know what people are searching. So this includes Google Trends, Answer the Public, and SEMrush is actually what we use, and it has a free version as well for you to get a better idea of what people in your area are actually searching. The next thing we're going to talk about is interlinking, and essentially all that is creating links from different pages on your website to other pages on your website. And the reason this is really important, whether you're writing a blog or a website page, is because search engines don't navigate a website like people do. They can't go to the menu and kind of click the different sections. So they rely on links to go from page to page on your website. So the more links you have between pages on your website, the easier it is for search engines to navigate it. And then the better search engines can rank the different pages on your site.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I think this is one that often gets overlooked when building out new content, but could you give maybe a quick example?
Yeah, for sure. So really, anytime you mention a service on a page, it's a great opportunity to link. So maybe you're talking about sunglasses and you're talking about how if you don't wear sunglasses, that can maybe lead to dry, irritated eyes. Well, that's a great opportunity to link to your dry eye page.
Yeah, that's perfect.
And this last one is technical SEO. I won't spend too much time on it, but if you do work with a web developer, this is a great thing to ask them about. So the first one is headlines or H1s. So an H1 is kind of like the title of a book, bringing it back to that book analogy. So you should only have one H1 per page, just like you'd only have one title of a book. And the H1 is kind of the most important piece of text on a page because it tells Google what your page is actually about. So if the page is about, you know, dry eye treatment, then that's what the H1 should be. And that's also a good opportunity to include your service area. So if you do dry eye treatment in Toronto. Dry eye treatment in Toronto is a good way to kind of include both those keywords in the H1. And the next thing is meta titles and descriptions. Yeah, no worries. So meta titles and descriptions, sometimes called page titles and page descriptions, are actually what shows up when you make a Google search. So when you look in the search results, there's the meta title and then the description underneath. That's what you actually click on. So Google will pull these automatically, but it's a good idea to write your own and customize them. And that way you can make sure that they're written in a way that really encourages people to click on your website.
Yeah.
So this one is really kind of, if you've done all those other things, there might be some other reasons why you're still not ranking or ranking where you want to. So some of those things could be issues with the website code itself. So maybe you used kind of like a website builder template to build your website. So that might be one of the issues. One of the issues as well is if you've been doing kind of spammy or black hat SEO practices, they're sometimes called. So whether you did it with an SEO provider, maybe got some bad advice, things like keyword stuffing or spammy backlinks can mean that you aren't ranking as well. Mobile optimization is a big one. So Google actually does mobile first indexing or ranking for a lot of websites. So that means that they'll actually look at your mobile version of your website first rather than a desktop version. So if you've never seen how your website looks on your phone, I would double check that. And if it doesn't work well on your phone, that's probably a reason why you're not ranking. The final two are kind of competition and the length of time you've been doing SEO. So if all your competitors are investing a lot into SEO, you probably have, a bit more competition, and the length of time you've been doing SEO will impact it as well. So if you started SEO like 2 months ago, you're probably not seeing results yet, and that's normal. SEO is kind of a long-term strategy, so you want to be doing it for at least 3 months, but really you start seeing big results after a year of SEO. So have patience, and then the rankings will come.
Yeah, and I think that's so important. Like when it comes to SEO, the analogy is SEO is like riding a bike uphill. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes weeks, months for Google to react to changes, to again, it's going back to the trust thing, just to trust your website and your content. And the other piece too is, algorithms are always changing, and SEO does require constant work. So in terms of these things that we went over, if you're implementing these and taking these to heart, I can almost guarantee that you will see some results. But again, the hard thing with SEO is you do have to be a little bit patient. It doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I guess just to recap, because we covered a lot. That was 20 minutes, 21. We're 1 minute over. We almost got it under the radar. We packed a lot in there, but just to quickly recap so that you guys understand what we went through, because again, if you implement these, you will see results. It's it'll happen, I promise. So a couple of things. So think about what patients are looking for, not what Google's looking for. That's so important. Again, back to the second one. Just think about what they're looking for in terms of writing content for patients. Focus on humans, not Google. Just write good quality content. Again, not for Google, but tying back to what patients are looking for. There's kind of a theme here. Website page structure. So ensuring that there is content on specific pages. So separating out pages for each different topic, interlinking between all those pages on the website, blogs, Google My Business, making sure that's up to date. And then just that technical SEO that we talked about at the end there. 8 quick things, or not quick things, but 8 things that if you did focus on, it will definitely help. That's all. I think we did pretty good. 12:20, 12:22, 2 minutes over. Yeah, I guess I understand we are at time. I'll still open it up for a few questions if we see any come in, but I do completely understand if anyone has to run. let's see.
Yeah, and we also want to take a minute to thank our sponsor, Johnson & Johnson Vision, for making this webinar possible. So thank you to Johnson & Johnson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you very much. Bryn, sorry, I'm sharing my screen, so I'm not looking at the question list right now, but are you?
Right now, I just have the joke from Mark in the Q&A section. So if anyone has any other jokes or questions that they want to share, we will be here to answer your questions.
Perfect. The other thing too is if on your SEO journey and getting yourselves ranking, feel free to reach out. If you do go to marketingforecps.com and there's some contact forms there. Honestly, we're always watching that. If you did want to reach out to, I mean, even to me directly with SEO questions, I'm alex.paisley at marketingforecps.com. But by all means, go to the website, fill the contact form, and that's probably the best way to get in touch. And it can be anything, even if it's just a random SEO question, we're always happy to help. We love this. We nerd out on this all day. This is our passion. So we are always happy to connect. We're always happy to chat. You can reach out to us on social media, Instagram, Facebook. You can even reach out to us on LinkedIn as well, and ask us questions there as well. So there's lots of ways to get in touch. And yeah, we're always happy to help.
Yeah,
so
sure.
I guess sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, if anyone does have a question and you're not sure how to ask it, if you go to the bottom of your screen, there is a little speech bubble that says Q&A, so you can ask your questions there.
Yeah.
So we have one question. So how much is too much interlinking? Is there a limit that you should focus on? I wouldn't say there's like a strict limit. I would say just do it where it makes sense or where it fits naturally, like that example I gave earlier. If you're already talking about, dry eye on the sunglasses page, that's a natural, normal spot to put another link. Obviously, you don't want it to be distracting where like every other word is a link. So I would say if you just do it where it fits naturally, then you won't have any issues.
Yeah, user experience above all.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, perfect. I guess we can wrap it up here. Again, if any questions come up, reach out to us. Always love to chat. We always love to connect. Thank you so much for joining, and hopefully we'll chat to you in the future. Again, don't forget to go and download that free Google My Business Guide at marketingforecps.com. Thanks so much, everyone.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.